In a society consumed by gender roles and social norms, non-binary people have tried to break free, only to find themselves in yet another box. When did non-binary become watered down to simply an aesthetic synonymous with androgyny? The media have taken the nuance out of this complex identity and made it digestible for cis people, and marketable for brands. Non-binary identity is not just a thin person with a pixie cut, wearing a skirt and a blazer at the same time. Non-binary doesn't have a look. It's an integral part of a person's perception of their true self. In a capitalist landscape, it is inevitable for the concept of a non-binary identity to be packaged and simplified in order to create a category to market towards. To quote Alex V. Green's essay Gender Blur, the category of non-binary people was the newest, youngest, and edgiest community on offer at the start of the latest boom in self-consciously progressive digital marketing. It became a way for brands to appear progressive and accepting, while maintaining distance from socio-political conversations around queer and transgender issues. Green's essay discusses how commodification has long plagued the queer community. Big companies and mainstream media tend to appropriate aspects and aesthetics of queer culture, water it down to take away any nuance or radical thinking, and sell back to us a soulless version of what it is to be queer. They have the nerve, and the privilege, to profit off of aspects of queer culture, while ignoring the fact that transgender people are being systematically targeted and discriminated against. Sadly, in today's world, identifying as transgender is seen as something political rather than personal. In recent years, there has been a massive rise in anti-trans attitudes, hate crimes, and legislation across the globe. According to Home Office figures, recorded hate crimes against transgender people in England and Wales rose by 11% to 4,732 offences in the last year. In the USA, 85 anti-trans bills have been passed this year, with a further 377 active bills being discussed. Meanwhile, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has targeted the trans community, proposing changes to the Equality Act 2010 that would directly harm transgender people. As Alex V. Green states, transgender on its own has too many political hang-ups and too high stakes to appeal to broader audiences beyond spectacle. For this reason, non-binary identity in media has been separated from the transgender community and marketed as palatable and uncomplicated. Pictured here is the Vogue magazine cover from December 2020, photographed by Tyler Mitchell. Harry Styles is stood in a grassy landscape, wearing a Gucci jacket and dress, stereotypically feminine clothing. He is blowing up a light blue balloon and wearing many rings, including rings with his initials, H and S. As you can see from this photograph, Styles' fashion choices do break traditional gender norms. But this is not in any way revolutionary, and does not make him non-binary. Despite his androgynous and sometimes feminine clothing, he has never stated that he identifies as a non-binary individual. This illustrates the point that identity is not simply to do with aesthetics, and rather how you feel internally, how you perceive yourself, and how you wish to be perceived by others. Actor Billy Porter has expressed his distaste for Condé Nast's attempt at making Harry Styles the poster boy for a community that he is not a part of. Porter discussed how, despite the fact that Harry's fashion is nothing revolutionary, as queer actors and musicians have been breaking gender norms in the world of fashion for decades, all that Styles had to do was be white and cute and straight and fit into the infrastructure that way. He went on to say, "You're using my community, or your people are using my community, to elevate you. You haven't had to sacrifice anything." Harry Styles is a cisgender man, and yet he is being held up as an example of queer culture, held up above actual queer people. Do these media outlets understand what they're talking about? Do they know the difference between a non-binary person and a cisgender man wearing stereotypically feminine clothing? Modern media outlets are publishing content labelled as queer and marketed towards the LGBTQ+ community, but they're doing so in a very boxed-in way that sticks to the status quo and panders to straight and cisgender people. It is not revolutionary or thought-provoking. It's the same stale content, including all the usual beauty standards, repackaged with a pride flag on it. Non-binary people have been placed in a box, portrayed as the epitome of androgyny, predominantly white and thin, focused on pronouns and gender-neutral bathrooms. Truly diverse visual representation of non-binary people would include those from all cultures and backgrounds, those with large chests, large bodies, and beards. It would include those who don't appear androgynous, who don't use neutral pronouns, those who appear marvellously feminine or gloriously masculine, because those traits don't take away from a person's identity. It doesn't take away from their queerness. And that's something that mainstream media will never grasp, how someone can be truly beyond the binary instead of dead in the middle of it. That's something that you can't categorize or profit from. That's authenticity.